This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. So part of the NFL season that started today, the Cleveland Browns players are back in the building. They're doing their weightlifting phase one part of the offseason. And with that comes media availability for not just Kevin Stefanski, but DeShawn Watson, people we've been wanting to hear from. So I'm going to look over what we heard from here and what we learned from it. And the first thing that kind of got addressed were the injury situations with Nick Chubb and the offensive lineman.
Timeline now crystallized a little bit with Nick Chubb coming off those two surgeries. Do you have a better idea of how much more time he's going to need to be able to return?
I don't know that we'll go past today and this week. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. I can promise you he's working very hard. Early in the morning, he's here. He's attacking his rehab. That's the best way I can put it. When he's ready, he'll be ready.
In Orlando, Andrew said he was going to start running that week. Is he in fact doing that?
He's. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the rehab, but he's doing everything he's supposed to be doing.
And how about your tackles, Kevin? Jack Conklin, Wills, and DeShawn, how are they coming?
They're all doing great. All of them are at different points in their rehab. Those are three different injuries, same position, but three different injuries. So we're going to treat them as such. But again, these guys are working very, very hard to get back ASAP.
I don't think anything we heard there was too concerning or something to be concerned about. Nick Chubb's injury, I think people have done this thing where we speculated it into 8 weeks into the season when it's never given cause to expect that. I would just wait and see what happens with Nick Chubb. I think some of the O-line injuries, I think it's interesting because DeShawn Jones's injury never sounded like it was that serious. It just seemed like it was season ending because it happened a couple of weeks before the season ended. And for him not to be back yet is slightly concerning, right? The Jack Conklin injury, you expect that to take a while. And the same thing with Jed Wills, who I don't think he tore his ACL, but he severely sprained it. So, that's going to take a little while, especially when we're talking about 300-pounders. But the DeShawn Jones one is interesting. Like, I would expect at this point that he'd be back. Now, again, I'm not a medical expert, and I'm not 100% sure what the nature is of DeShawn Jones' injury, so I could be completely wrong on this. But that is something where I'm like slightly a bit like my eyebrows perked up a little bit when I hear that. He is kind of lumped in with those other two who had more severe ACL injuries. Of course, Nick Chubb and the offensive linemen aren't the only injuries that happened to this team. We know that this team had a ton of injuries last year, but the quarterback position was one of them. Here's Kevin Stefanski talking about how they're going to work with DeShawn Watson's shoulder injury and what the timeline might look like.
The throwing will work out. Do you think that Jameis will get a ton of work? Will you guys kind of take it easy with DeShawn as you ramp him up, and that will give Jameis and Tyler a lot of work?
We'll try to do what's ever appropriate, Mary Kay, and for me, that's leaning on the medical staff and DeShawn and making sure that we have a plan and we'll stick to it, obviously with constant communication between all parties. And if there's days where, now it's next man up, Jameis will get some more throws, which I think is great for him as well. But we'll really work all of that out as we get into those days.
I think what was even more interesting is that we got DeShawn Watson to talk about that shoulder injury and get asked follow-up questions, which we haven't had in a long time with him. So he kind of went into more detail. So it's going to be a very long clip of several clips of DeShawn Watson talking about the injury. But I do think that this is probably the most interesting thing that happened at all these press conferences is this set of clips. So let's let them roll.
DeShawn, what exactly, can you kind of take us through kind of the process of the rehab, what they've got you doing, specifically throwing wise, that, kind of maybe the ramp up process that you're looking at over the next weeks and months?
Yeah, so we have a very customized program for my shoulder, with the help of, myself, the training staff, the Browns, Dr. Elatrosh out in LA, Elite Autosport, and, Quincy, Billy, really my whole team, Tom down in Jacksonville. Yeah, we just put a process that can, ramp up and that's just right for, the right timing to come back and be able to be full go. And I think in this process right now, it's all about load management and not doing too much, even though I probably could. So, yeah, we just make sure that we take it day by day, and we do exactly what everyone came on, months before, got on that call, and we put the plan together just to make sure we're on the right track and stand on the right track and not getting ahead of ourselves.
How is your shoulder responding to what you have done to this point? How is it feeling? How are you feeling?
I feel really good. Very confident in myself and the process that's going. Shoulder's been really well. So just making sure that I don't do anything extra that's going to harm it or anything like that. So I think that's the biggest thing. That's exactly what, Dr. Elatrosh and the guys told me is don't try to do anything extra and rush back. So just follow the script and the plan, and you'll be exactly where you want to be, even better than before.
Able to let one go yet, or is it still too early in the process?
I mean, I've been able to throw. I think it's still early to really let go. When you say let it go, as far as you're talking 50 yards downfield, or yeah, I'm throwing full speed. Everything is fluid motion, no hinging or. And when I say hinging, my release point when I'm throwing and things like that, everything is fluid and motion is really good. The velocity and the strength is really good. So it's been well.
Do you expect to, when we get to OTAs and the team gets on the field, do you expect to be able to participate at least in some of those practices?
That's the plan. We talked previously about that. I think we got to see how these next couple of weeks go. I know for Dr. Elatrosh, he wants to be a little bit more conservative, just because it was a joint, the glenoid labrum. So he wants to really make sure that we're not doing too much. And other experts that was a part of it said the same thing. This is an injury that for spring, you want to be a little bit more conservative. And then, this summer and get ready for training camp, that's when there's going to be a time where we can pick that up. So I think he can go either way for that in the next couple of weeks.
So your throwing mechanics haven't changed at all?
No, sir.
Had the labrum repaired as well as the glenoid bone?
No, not the full labrum. So the glenoid, the bone that chipped off in my joint is called, of course, the glenoid, which is attached to the labrum. So when the glenoid came off the bone, the labrum was the one that was hanging the bone. So he had to pretty much repair that and put that together. So he just pretty much made sure the labrum was good. But there wasn't a full labrum. It was just a partial of the labrum that was connected to the glenoid.
The specific plan and, the way they've set it up with load management and everything, the patience you have to show to, recover fully to get back to where you hope to be.
If I had to pick, I would say neither, but because the pain haven't really been a problem. And I think that's one thing that Dr. Elatrosh was super, super surprised, especially when I first got to him in November, is how did I play in that Baltimore game. Really, the Cardinals game too, but especially the Baltimore game. He was amazed by that. But so if I can play through that right now, the glenoid is healed, and it's just building that endurance and the management of just throwing footballs constantly and not getting tired. So I think that part is good. As far as being patient, I've gained and learned how to be patient the last 3 years. So for me, that's not a big part either. I think it's just honestly just staying focused and on track of what they're allowing me to do, and just taking it one step at a time. And if I can do that and focus on myself to be the better person, be the better teammate and player that I can be through this process, then I think that's the best thing.
Sean, are you saying that, is there some thought that perhaps you suffered the fracture before the Baltimore game, that you maybe had some of the fracture going on in the Cardinals game?
It's possible. I'm not sure. He was just amazed how I was able to play those 2 weeks, dealing with what the pain, especially for what he's seen over his years with baseball guys, not really football guys, but baseball guys that kind of dealt with, shoulder injuries.
They think now that perhaps, I'm sorry, why do they think perhaps now that, because we, of course, thought that you fractured the shoulder during the Baltimore game, like first half, and came out and played that amazing second half. But what's the new, information here? Like, why do they think maybe you suffered it earlier, and when do they think that you suffered it, and do you remember when you might have suffered it now?
I don't really remember. I was just, of course, from the Tennessee game, I was dealing with, just shoulder injuries. So I think, with him, just over his years, just kind of, he don't know, because it don't really happen in football with this injury. It's a lot of baseball guys. So for him, it just goes back to his baseball experience. So that's why he was just kind of worried. No one knows when it actually happened. Or when that bone actually came apart. I knew for sure in Baltimore, though, because I heard some clicking sounds, and that's one of the indicators that something is wrong with that joint. But that's probably a question for Dr. Elatrash and why he pretty much said that. I just know that he was just very amazed how I finished both of those games.
So is there a chance it could have happened on that hit in the Titans game? Are you saying that even all the way back to then, and the rest of the shoulder problems that you suffered could have been tied to that original hit, possibly?
Possibly. I'm not even sure. Yeah, possibly.
Overall, I'm not too concerned over what I heard in that, but I do think that there's going to be a lot that people are going to pick apart in his responses in this that could have been handled a little bit cleaner. I do think, first and foremost, it is slightly concerning that the messaging has already changed from he's going to be back for OTAs fully throwing to we're going to play it safe. Why did that messaging change? When did that message? I know they're trying to paint it as if the doctor that they have is forcing them to be a little bit less aggressive with when DeShawn Watson is going to get back. But that doctor was the same doctor that they had when they thought or were pushing out the timeline that DeShawn's going to be throwing when it comes to OTAs. Now it seems like they're pumping the brakes on that idea a little bit. I don't think they're throwing it out. I don't think it's out the realm of possibility. I still think it's very possible for them, but they're not as confident about it as they were a couple months ago. We know with these shoulder injuries, like we saw earlier in the season with DeShawn Watson, it's more of a random healing thing, right? We saw the same thing with Greedy Williams, albeit that was nerve damage, but this thing kind of just, it's ready when it's ready. And it's interesting that it feels like we're back in that mode for when he comes back to OTAs again. I wouldn't panic if he misses part of OTAs or if he can't throw during OTAs. I really wouldn't. Like, I don't think there would be cause for concern unless he starts to miss training camp practices. And when I say miss, I mean he hasn't even practiced or thrown to his teammates, and we're talking about him being like a week or two into training camp, right? Like if that happens, there's cause to be concerned. But right now, I would say it's something to keep an eye on, that timeline seems to have changed. And when he kind of breaks down the detail of this injury, that there was some kind of partial strain to the labrum, but it wasn't a complete tear, just the way they had to get at it. And then like the whole thing where he got caught up talking about how he played through injury versus Arizona and Baltimore, which led to, I thought, a very on-point series of follow-up questions from Mary Kay, where she brought up, hey, well, do you think this goes all the way back? Like, do you think this shoulder was broken all the way back in the Tennessee game, which if you're listening to DeShawn Watson and taking him 100% at his word, is a reasonable line to get to, because he's talking about how he was playing through the injury before he broke the shoulder, as if he broke the shoulder earlier, which is interesting. Now, me personally, my theory is I think DeShawn Watson was trying to flex, right? I think he was trying to let us know how much he played through last year. I think he was trying to let us know that he wasn't 100% last year. I think he was trying to signal to us that he feels like he's going to be much better once he's 100% fully healthy, because he wasn't really 100% fully healthy for outside of week 3. The first 3 weeks of the season, he wasn't 100% fully healthy. So I thought he was trying to signal to us, like, yeah, this is what it's going to be like. He was flexing. And he got caught with the follow-up questions. We've all been there when we tried to flex, act like we did something, add a little sauce to it. Then somebody asks us some real follow-up questions that kind of break down that whole story. That's what it seemed like to me, was he was flexing. Like he wanted to let us know he was playing through injury. He was balling through it. And then he kind of got caught up, and then it turned into something he didn't want to. That's when keeping it not real goes wrong, for y'all who know what I mean on that one. So I don't think that that's going to be as important to follow up on, because I just think that was he was trying to flex, and it backfired on. But Kevin talks about the new offense with Ken Dorsey. This is a clip on that.
As far as the offensive meetings at this point, is Dorsey starting to unveil your new playbook?
That's sure, of course. That's what Coach Dorsey is doing right now with the offense, and then with the quarterbacks as well, trying to catch these guys up on a bunch of the things that we're doing. Some are the same, some are different, but Coach Dorsey is doing a really nice job.
How important is this time of the year when you have so much change among that offensive staff?
I think you can get a lot of work done in April, both as a team and as a unit and as a coaching staff. I would tell you it's really fun to watch our coaches coach. It's fun for me to sit in meetings and listen to our coaches coach, whether it's Coach Schwartz or Bubba, Coach Dorsey, our position coaches, and then when we finally get out in the field to watch them work, because that's what we're here to do. So it's fun to watch these guys get going. We love to watch tape of different teams and steal from other teams and evolve and that type of thing. So there are certain things within that process that are very, very, very subtle that you may not pick up on, and it may be how we call things or how we rule things. And for any player, an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, some of their rules may change, so it may not be as overt. But I think it's something that happens every season in this league, where you have to be evolving. You cannot stay the same. I just think the other coaches in this league are too good, and if you just throw it up on the board and say, hey, it worked last year, it's going to work this year, I just don't think that's fair. I have too much respect for the other coaches and players in this league.
Obviously, Kevin's not going to give us the ins and outs. He's not going to tell us how many plays and the offense they have for different personnel packages. He's never going to give us that kind of detail. But, he said it. They want to be multiple, which is almost a nothing term in these press conference. But they want to attack downfield. I think that means they're just going to be more aggressive, right, in their strategy and how they want to go. They want to create big plays. One of the areas where the Browns have struggled the last couple of years is creating explosive plays. And this is a play to get more explosive, and that's why they traded for DeShawn Watson. They didn't have that kind of explosive plays with him, so they're going to move on from Alex Van Pelt, and that's why they brought in Ken Dorsey and want those explosive plays as a key part of the offense. It's something Kevin's wanted since 2020, since he's gotten here. So I think that's what this is in the pursuit of. Then we have Tony Grossi's weird obsession with who's calling the plays and how people feel about it. I just think he's wrong on this, but let me play the clip.
Talking to our players about and how we're trying to structure our offense, and I think you'll hear from Ken and the players as we get going. But so much of this is very similar to how we have always seen it, which is to be an attacking offense and be multiple in a bunch of different ways. How it all unfolds is still something that, in phase one, you're trying to put pieces together and install your system so that you can evolve as you see what players are emerging, see what players come out of the draft, for instance, so that you are ready to put the offense together that fits your guys best.
Where are you at on the offensive play calling decision?
We're not there. I'll let Tony know first. Then Tony can tell you, Jake.
This is a serious question. Has any offensive player asked you who's calling plays?
No. I'll also let you know.
Does it matter who calls the plays?
No, they don't.
Why doesn't it matter?
Because they both work together, so they both have the same mindset. They both have the headsets and communicate. So for me, whoever calls the plays is going to call the plays. We, as an offense and as a quarterback, we still got to go execute and go out there and perform.
I don't know what Tony Grossi is talking about on ESPN 850. I don't really listen to much radio sports talk anymore. Honestly, since I do sports talk for a living, when I'm not working, I'm usually not listening to much other sports talk, right? Like I'll listen to Jake Burns, certain other people that are on my radar, but I'm not taking in hours of sports talk radio. So I don't know what it is that Tony Grossi's out there saying. I can infer from this line of questioning that he's talking about who's calling the plays a lot. And y'all know how I feel about this. I think play calling is one of the most overrated things that we talk about, or at least blown out of proportion things. I care more about the process that gets you to the play calls than the play calls themselves. I think the play calls are usually incidental to a bigger issue, right? If you have an issue with the play calling, it usually means that you have an issue with the strategy that they came into the game and the play sheet that they brought to that game and the game plan that they had. I think that stuff's more important than who's on the headset calling the plays. It seems like he has an obsession over this. I don't think players care about who's calling the plays. Like outside of maybe the quarterback cares, but I really don't think it's that deep. Like I think we make play calling this thing that's deeper than what it actually is. And again, this is why I implore people to watch like the UFL. You will see like how much process goes on those sidelines when it comes to what goes down on the offensive side of the ball and how little of it play calling actually is. I know we dramatic. I can't talk today. We dramatize the play call as seeming like the most important thing, because in a movie or in a drama, it's a really cool point of action that you can point to. So if you watch a lot of football movies or football media, the play calling seems super important. But it seems like from the more that I listen to people who do this and read things, that the play calling is more of a side effect than a game changer one way or the other. It's more about the process that gets you to those play calls. So I don't know why there were so many questions about the damn play calling in April. But y'all can get me hip to whatever Tony Grossi be talking about over there. I don't really listen to 850. So y'all let me know what's going on over there. And then the last thing is DeShawn Watson talking about this new offense, what he feels like he brings.
Getting to know him. How helpful can this offseason program be for that connection with you guys?
Oh, it was very, very good. The time, that's one thing you can't get back is time. And, the time, like you said, just for me being here face to face, being able to hear his voice, hear how he communicates, hear how, he runs things, calls things a little bit different than Kevin or AVP did the previous 2 years. It's good to be around that, and we can kind of communicate. He can do the same thing for him. Get around me and see how I operate, how I learn, what's good, what's not good, what we want to change. And we've been doing that. The first 2 days we've had a lot of conversation and a lot of meetings, and it's been very good.
Impression of now that you're allowed in the classroom and you can talk football, what's your impression of the tweaks and changes that Dorsey and Coach Stefanski plan to implement offensively?
It's really good. I mean, a lot of opportunities for the receivers to be able to really showcase their skills. A lot of guys moving around, a lot of guys being able to play different spots, and then myself to just be free and not really kind of controlled in a sense. It's really just kind of go out there and be able to, showcase spread offense, throw it around, run around, and make some plays happen. So that's very exciting for myself.
But that's the updates. Let me know what you think about the Browns coming back to the press conference that they had in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.